Welcome to the Faces of Czech Music, a Radio Prague International and Czech Centers podcast.
We want to remind you that 2024 is the year of Czech music. Our podcast tries to show you that the Czech music is not only Dvořák, Smetana or Janáček. We want to reveal new names and new faces from different genres.
Faces of Czech Music is presented by Petr Dudek
and Amelia Mola-Schmidt.
We're back in the studio, and our Czech face today is none other than violinist Daniel Matejča. Welcome to the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And can you tell us the piece of music that we just heard?
This was the second movement from the fourth sonata from Eugène Ysaÿe. It was a Belgian composer, and it's one of his 6 sonatas that I recorded recently in the year 2023. I suppose, yeah.
Okay, you passed the first test. We can continue with our conversation.
You come from Liberec originally. What was it like growing up in this city?
Well, I always loved it, and I still love it. It's my comfort city. I love coming back, and I had a great support from my family because both of my parents are actually musicians, and they have a job in the orchestra in Liberec, in the opera. And then I started visiting the elementary artistic school. It's a combined version of those two things, and I had a great support there as well. So until now, when I'm living in Prague and studying in the Academy of Performing Arts, it was just Liberec for me, and I still love it, and I really appreciate the opportunity of being born there.
How old were you, by the way, when you started to play the violin?
I was about 4 years old when I started playing the violin.
And who was your first teacher? Your parents?
My mother, yes. My mother, and then Professor Straus found out about me, and we started working together since I was, I don't know, maybe 7 years old. And
your mother is probably a good teacher, judging by the success you have achieved by,
well,
by the time.
She's really, really good teacher. She gave me all the basics I need and taught me everything I needed for growing up.
And it was clear from the very beginning that it's the violin you are going to play, or did you think about some other instruments as well?
Well, at the age of 6, I started playing the piano and drums because I found my love for jazz music, and I still love that. But for some reason, the violin was always in the first place, and I never thought of changing my main instrument.
And what do you love most about your instrument?
Well, for me, it would probably be the variety of repertoire. There is a lot of things you can play on the violin, from Bach, from Haydn to Shostakovich to Bartók, which is my favorite music of all times. The 20th century is my favorite. But it's also, the color of the instrument and the position in the hierarchy of musical instruments. It's on the top, and I feel like that. And violin just seems like a leader to me.
Okay, tell me about this musical hierarchy, because this is news to me.
Well, in the orchestra, when you see the layout of the people playing the instruments, you see the concertmaster is always a violinist, and he leads the orchestra in every way, in tuning and playing in every way. So that's probably where I got the idea. It's just thinking out loud.
Did I understand you right when you said that you started to play other instruments because you wanted to play jazz?
That's just like a free time activity. Sometimes I use it as an encore at the concert when there is a piano, but mostly it's a free time activity.
And you cannot play jazz on the violin? Because I remember some famous violinists who played jazz.
Yes.
Didier Lockwood or Stephen Grappelli.
Exactly. Well, I never got to that because I was so focused on the classical music, and for some reason I find jazz on piano much easier to create because you have much more harmonical possibilities on the piano. On the violin you can play tops like 4 notes or something. On the piano you have basically unlimited possibilities.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, because you've been playing since you were 4, the violin. Was there ever a moment where everything kind of just fell into place and clicked for you and you were like, okay, music, this is going to be what I do professionally? Or was it just gradual over time as you progressed?
I think I would say the second option. It's not a moment I felt a click. It's just through time I found a purpose and love for music as I love it now. So thanks to influence of people in my life, I understood what music is about, and now I'm here.
Daniel, we have a small task for you now. We will play some music and you will tell us what it is, okay?
Oh, that's dangerous. Well, this would be Bach's third partita, I think. Should be, yes.
Do you know who's playing?
To be honest, I can't tell.
It's Gideon Kremer.
I love his recording of those.
What do you like about his style of playing?
Well, he found his own specific approach to playing music, and most of all, I appreciate him for pushing the unpopular classical music forward to people like Weinberg and Arvo Pärt and so on and so on. And I think he did a great job at pushing these forward to the audience and to the public.
Do you like Bach's music? I mean, you probably do, but in the sense that you would like to play Bach's partitas?
Every musician, every violinist has to play those. It's a mandatory pieces, and you cannot not play them. It's everyone has love for it because it's just he was a genius, and some of them are harder, some of them are easier, but everybody loves all of them.
But you play them at a concert?
Yes, sometimes. Actually, very often.
And will you record them someday?
Well, maybe someday if I learn all of them, maybe I will.
Do you have other models among violinists apart from Gideon Kremer?
Well, Gideon Kremer is the biggest one, but if I had to choose another one, it would be probably Leonidas Kavakos. He's a great musician. I love his interpretations of music of 20th century. It's one of the best interpretations ever made. And from the younger ones, I would say probably Augustin Hadelich. He's a shining star right now. He popped out. He won a serious competition, and then everybody started to get to know him.
We know that you recorded a CD of pieces by Eugen Izai.
you chose Issei's sonatas for Superphone. Why? Tell us why.
Well, ever since I turned about 12 years old, and actually I heard Kramer's recording of those Issei sonatas, I just kept listening to them, and one struck me. I loved the second one, and I started it learning when I was 12, and then I added the other ones, and by, I don't know, age of 16, I had them all. And when Mateusz Wilczynski approached me with an idea that we could make a recording, and suggested that I suggest the idea of the album, I immediately said these Issei sonatas, because it's such a deep story. Every single sonata has its own story, and actually it's really close to Bach sonatas and partitas. He took a great inspiration in those. So it was a clear choice. I learned them all and suggested we could do this.
In which sense does Issei develop the work of Johann Sebastian Bach? Can you explain that?
Legend says that one day Issei went to a concert, and a violinist, I don't remember his name and I don't want to be lying, but a violinist played all of those Bach partitas and sonatas. And he was so amazed by that he, over one night, made a script of all of them, of all 6 sonatas. And you can actually hear greatly the influence of Bach's sonatas and partitas, because, for example, in the second sonata of Issei, actually starts with the same motif as the third partita of Bach. But then he adds his own spirit, his own composition, and continues in the Impressionism 20th century style. So, he took those partitas and made it richer by the Impressionist motifs and ideas.
How about technical requirements for the violinist? Is Issei more difficult technically?
Than Bach, for sure. I have to say it's much more difficult than Bach.
Did you have problems studying it?
Well, it took time, and it took a lot of hours and patience, but I made it somehow.
Why is it? Is it because the violinists are now technically far better than they were in Bach's times?
Well, that's for sure. But as well, Issei was a great violinist, so he knew what he was doing, and even though it's really difficult, everything makes sense. Everything just fits into the right places.
We know that the CD of Issei's recordings, or your recordings of Issei, were best-selling. Are you surprised that people like Issei so much?
Well, I was, actually, because, it's not the easiest music to listen to, especially for a wider audience. So the fact that it was a best-selling CD, it was just mind-blowing for me. And I did not expect it. I did it because I loved the music, and I wanted to make the album of those just for me. So I have it, and I have enjoyment from that. It had a success, and I'm happy. I'm really happy for that.
And you have contributed to it, because your interpretation is something which made it popular.
Well, it's not actually just my interpretation. Of course, it's a combination of
a little
the work.
Bit.
Well, a little bit, of course, a little bit, but Professor Straus has a big say in that.
This is Faces of Czech Music, and our guest today is Daniel Matejča. And you just said his name, Professor Ivan Straus. You started working with him when you were 5, correct?
5 or 6, maybe 7.
Okay.
Around that, yeah.
And you still work with him to this day?
Exactly.
So tell us about this relationship.
It's a beautiful relationship. I mean, sometimes I feel, because he started teaching me when I was this young, it's sometimes even like grandpa/grandson relationship, and the chemistry and everything is just working out perfectly, and we have the same opinions, and we have the same very similar music taste, so it works out for the best. Everything just amazing with him.
Do you have other mentors, other teachers apart from Professor Straus?
Well, I visited a lot of master classes, and I was attending a school in Italy for well, not a very long time, but I was there. And I tried a lot of professors, but I surely can say that no one ever contributed me that much as a Professor Straus.
Speaking about playing and studying abroad, do you have a favorite place in foreign countries where you like to perform, perhaps? A favorite stage? Favorite audience?
You know, every audience is different, and you have to learn the way they react. So, for example, audience in Japan reacts completely opposite to the audience in Hungary. So it's a different kind of experience when you finish your playing, and then the feedback from the public comes, and you have some sort of feeling. But my favorite would be probably in France, when I performed at the Eurovision Young Musicians in the Quorum. It was probably the biggest hall I ever played in, so maybe that's a part of the experience. But the audience was cheering really loud, and I I enjoyed it, and it was really pleasing, and I loved it there.
Do you have a favorite piece of music to perform?
Well, I always loved performing Shostakovich First Violin Concerto, and now I found weird. Well, I developed a weird relationship with Bela Bartok. So now I learned his sonata for solo violin, which is well, my mom hates me for practicing that at home. It's let's say not the easiest piece to listen to, but it's just one of my favorites, and when I perform it, I don't mind about the audience reaction because it's really extravagant and extraordinary. I just enjoy playing it. It's lovely.
You've been traveling and you've been quite active with your music since you were quite young. Do you ever feel like you've missed out on being, I'm going to say this in air quotes, a normal kid or teenager, or have the experiences you've had made up for this?
Well, surprisingly, I don't think I missed out on that. I always found a way to enjoy my childhood and free time as much as I could, because I know years would not be coming back. So I don't think I missed it out. Actually, until today, I always find a way to relax, to spend my free time any way I want it. So yes, I don't think I miss it.
I can understand that playing and performing at your level comes with a big pressure. How can you fight the pressure? Are you good at it?
Well, I learned to be good at it. In the beginning it was not so easy, and the pressure is of course big, and the level of stress is raising with the number of concerts coming. But if you can arrange your time and make a schedule of the practicing schedule, it's doable.
Where do you think the pressure comes from? Is it rather from people around you who expect you to be the best, or does it come from you yourself and from your own desires and ambitions?
I think it's a combination of those, because in the musical culture there is a big competition, so everyone is really competitive. But I never really minded that. I just always wanted it to be as perfect, as good as I can play it. So I always tried my best, and if when a concert didn't go well, I was of course disappointed. But it always lasted for a day, and then I was again motivated. So the pressure comes from me as well as from the surroundings.
You mentioned it earlier, but you're a student at the Academy of Performing Arts here in Prague. You have your bachelor concert coming up, I saw.
Yes.
So tell us about your experience being a student at the school.
Well, for me, it's just an opportunity to continue my studies with Professor Strauss. So that's basically the only reason I'm there. So I can just spend as much time with him as I can. So that's my main motivation of staying there.
Do you want to keep pursuing further higher education in music, or after bachelor's, do you think?
I will probably stay there for master's degree as well, again, to continue my studies with Professor Strauss, and then I will see what will happen. I haven't decided yet. It's an open door just now.
When you aren't practicing or performing music, what are you doing, if I may ask?
Well,
is there any free time for you?
I can find it if I want to.
What do you do then?
As I said, I love to experiment with instruments. So
it's still musical, even in your free time. Well, yes.
So that's one way of spending my free time. Again, with music, but different kind, and it's relaxing. It's not work, It's just relaxation and turning off my brain. But then when the coronavirus striked the Czech Republic, I found passion in skateboarding, actually. So about 3 years ago, I started skateboarding, and it's a completely opposite culture to classical music. So I think that could be beneficial to me, just to clear my head from the uptight classical community.
Are you hanging out with the skaters up at the top of Letna Park by the metronome?
Yes.
If I walk by there, will I see you there sometime?
It's probable, actually. It's probable. It's one of my favorite spots, actually.
Cool.
If you go for a walk, or if you commute to your classes or travel to Liberec, what music do you have in your headphones?
Well, it's almost never classical music, actually.
What is it?
It's almost ever jazz, or I don't know, soul or something like that.
What about when you're skating? What are you listening to when you're skating?
Probably old school rap.
Yes, Tribe Called Quest.
Exactly. It's fitting, according to the situation.
So back in 2022, we'll go back in time a bit. At the age of 17, you were the first Czech to win the Eurovision Young Musicians contest. I know you mentioned it earlier. It was your favorite performance. What was this experience like? And was it a win not only for you, but also for the country?
Exactly. That's a great point. The greatest pleasure was not from winning it for me, but from winning it for the country, because then I received a great thanks from people in the country. So that was probably the biggest pleasure, and the experience itself at the Eurovision was very unique. I got to experience this great hall. I met great people, but as well, everything was under pressure because of the cameras, because it was live streamed. So it's a different feeling than a regular concert.
And you have many shows coming up this year, but you're playing the Prague Spring Festival in April. Is there a performance in particular you're really looking forward to?
At the Prague Spring, we will be playing with my quartet. We recently founded Suk string quartet, which was it's a heritage from my professor. He used to play in this quartet, and he gave us the permission to use the name, and we will be playing beautiful pieces. And I have to say that I enjoy quartet music just as much as solo playing. It's completely different experience, but I love it.
What's the difference? In which sense is chamber music different from playing solo?
Well, often it's not more difficult speaking in technical terms, but it's completely different and probably more difficult in the terms of communicating and, playing together. Because when you're solo, you're just the one, and you can do pretty much whatever you want. But when you're with 3 other people, or whatever ensemble you're playing in, it's you know, you're depending on the others, and you have to learn to cooperate and to work with them. So you cannot be that selfish when you're playing with them. You have to adapt.
That probably involves giving up a bit of control too. Because
Exactly.
Is that hard for you?
Not really, because I play the first violin, so most of the time I still have the control, which is a big responsibility. But I think it's going pretty well.
Our guest today was Daniel Matejča. Thank you for coming in today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Faces of Czech Music is a Radio Prague International and Czech Centers podcast.
Presented by Amelia Mola-Schmidt
and Petr Dudek. Thank you and goodbye. Music you heard sampled today is Eugene Isai's 6 sonatas for the solo violin and J.S. Bach's Violin Partita No. 3.